Okay, so the print day is over, and it's time to clean up. I think, in terms of this being to promote or be used for my printmaking courses at the college, I would consider maybe 20 minutes before class is over, start cleaning up. Make sure that other students are participating, that we're actually using the ink, the tools, etc. Don't let people just grab their stuff and leave. Make sure that everybody's participating in this shared studio. The other thing is this studio that's for class on the college is also a shared space. So you want to leave it better than you found it, so that the other class that comes in after us doesn't have to clean up, and that takes time out of their education. Okay, so anyways, let's get off that soapbox. So cleaning up the ink. You're going to need paper towels, you're going to need your gloves, mineral or vegetable oil for cleanup, and then the newsprint, and then any other things that you can think of in terms of what can you do. You're also going to need the wax paper. So if you do want to keep the ink, and I have a lot of ink out, and this is actually still usable for the next class, so you don't want to waste ink because of its expense. So this is actually, you can gather this up, put it in wax paper, and it'll be actually kind of ready to go next class. So I'll start with the red, and then we'll do the black, and you'll just kind of watch me clean. So that's, it may not be too exciting. Let me adjust the camera down so we're seeing the surface. Okay, so the first thing is, well, there isn't per se any major steps, but to get through this, I usually start with the Brayers. So I put a piece of newsprint. You can use any kind of paper rep. I wouldn't use print paper, but use the newsprint. And this will get the bulk of the ink off the roller, which will make it easier and quicker to clean. And so you can see the amount of ink that's coming off onto the paper. I just fold this over onto itself, and I just do it a couple more times. Okay. Yay! And then I just discard that. Or you can stick it in your wallet or whatever you want to do. Alright, next step. Get this out of the way. I get out my wax paper. And you probably want, I don't know, maybe an 8x8 sheet. I guess this is 12 inches wide, isn't it? It's barely. Anyways. So about something that size. I usually double it over or fold it in half. It gives me 2 layers. And I set it aside. Then I take the palette knife that I used for this particular color ink, and I scrape up the excess, kind of put it in a pile. Now, some printmakers don't like to use what's here where you were rolling it up. I don't see much difference. The thought is that this is more oxidized than what's up here, but I really haven't noticed any major differences when it comes to keeping this for just, about a week. Okay, so I pick it all up, and then I kind of smear it on the wax paper, and then I fold it over. And what I want to try and do, so this edge is sealed, and I want to fold it over here. It seals that edge. I fold it again from the bottom, it seals that edge, and then I do a final folding this way. So all 4 edges are sealed or folded over, and then the ink is per se encapsulated in this wax paper. Then I take an extra step, and I just put the date on here. I'm just going to write the date. But so whatever date it is, so let's say, I don't know, July 31st, you can put the date on there, and then you know how long this has been packaged, okay? So if you find this and it's been 4 weeks, throw it away. Alright, and I just set that aside. The next part is I get the scraper out, and I want to also have my phone book, and I wipe as much as I can of the ink off my palette knife, and then I take the scraper and I scrape up the excess ink on the glass. So the more ink that I remove physically, it makes the cleanup process go a lot quicker. I just wipe that on the phone book, and I don't bother saving this. It's just such a minuscule amount of ink. I mean, you could, but all right, that's it for that. So those tools are still considered dirty, and I'll show you the next step. So the next step is to take your mineral or your vegetable oil and maybe put out, I don't know, 1.5 teaspoons, 2 teaspoons. And I take the palette knife and I kind of make a ribbon. And then I flatten the knife in there so that both sides get oiled, and that oil will kind of break down the ink that's left over in there. I do the same thing on the scraper. Set those aside, let it soak. Then I take the brayer and I roll into the oil. Now it will stop rolling, so I actually have to encourage it by using my finger. And I want to get the entire roller's surface wet with the oil. And then I just move it across the area where the ink was. And you can see how it's changing, kind of breaking up that ink. And I get my paper towel, which is behind you. Give me my paper towels. Now at this point, it's going to start to get dirty. So that's where I would put my gloves on. You could also put your gloves on a little bit earlier. And I've used these particular gloves maybe about 4 or 5 times now, and they're still good. They haven't torn yet, so they're still good. All right, I take my paper towel. I wipe up the ink slab. So I've got oily ink on there, and now I proceed to wipe the roller on my brayer. Do it back and forth. So it's coming off. I flip it over to a new side, and I wipe it again while I'm holding it in place. Okay. And I flip it over to the other side where it's still clean, and I wipe it one more time. And for the most part, it's pretty much done. I then hold it like this, and then I take the towel and I run the side of the roller, and then I move or roll the roller, and this is wiping the edges of the roller. Do the same thing on the other side. That comes clean. I set that aside because I can use this when I go to here. I get a new towel, and since I've got all the ink and residue for the most part off that brayer, I want to now degrease it. So I just take the glass cleaner. I feel it works pretty decently, and it's not too harsh on these, and I just wipe in the same manner. You can see there it's barely red. Flip it over where it's still kind of wet, and I'll wipe it one more time. Hit the sides. And then I hit the handle. Once that's done, this guy's ready. I'm set him off to the side. Alright, then I just take this glass cleaner soaked towel and I finish off the glass. So that degreases the glass. Then I go back to the the original towel and I wipe down my tools. Be sure to also get the edges. Be careful about the razor blade. So have a thick amount of paper towel. Just watch your fingers, be careful. And then I use the glass cleaner one to then degrease these tools. Put them away. Nice and clean, and I hit the handle. I think that's one of the pet peeves that a lot of students will start to develop. Students that don't wipe the handle, and then when they start the next day or next class and they pick up one of these tools and it's all inky, and they haven't made a mark or gotten any ink out, and it's all over their hands. So be sure you're just wiping it all on. Alright, so that's red ink. Red ink is gone, it's taken care of. Now let's move on to the black ink. It's basically rinse and repeat. You can do this in any kind of combinations if you want. And it's at one, whatever point you'll arrive with the same goal in mind. I'm going to keep this black ink, so I'm scraping it up, putting it in a piece of wax paper. Okay. There's that tool. And again, I fold the ink on itself. That seals the first edge. Fold again on the top, seals that edge. Fold it on the bottom, seals that edge. And then I finalize it by folding it over again until all four edges are sealed for the ink. Put it off to the side. Use my scraper to get up the rest of the ink. You'll notice some inks will come up readily. Others will kind of, per se, linger. They may appear maybe more like their viscosity, or they're thinner, softer, so they won't come up as readily. So you can definitely, I think, probably see this with the black ink. It seems like the viscosity was a lot thinner than the red. The red was a little bit more stiffer. Alright, so for the most part, that's about all that's going to scrape up. Maybe get a little bit more. And again, just wiping it on the phone book. Alright, I'm going to get another newsprint and get as much of the ink off of those Brayers. Again, I would use the newsprint for this, and that'll be the gray newspaper-like paper. And if you took the Art 101 class, you'll be quite familiar with that. So here's that small Brayer. And then the larger one. Put it in the recycling. Alright, veggie oil. Move it around with the palette knife. Also get the palette knife wet. Make a ribbon. And then move the Brayers into the oil, and you want to get the entire roller wet with the vegetable oil. You can also move around the oil over the area where there was ink. That will start to, per se, hydrate it again, break it down. So I'm using my finger to roll the roller to get the entire roller on this brayer wet. Let that sit. I could go back to my red towel. I just go to the back side of it. So this side is all red. So just go to the back side. And I can go to out of order than I did with the other one. I can just wipe my tools now. Set those aside. What do I do with this? Here's the scraper. You can wipe the ink slab. Go to the little brayer. Get the sides. Do the big brayer. It's nice that when some of these brayers or rollers have a color, like the color of the rubber or the polyurethane, you can see the ink color disappear and then the color of the brayer's roller appears, and it knows that you're doing a pretty good job wiping it. On this black one, it's really hard to tell, especially if you use black ink, if the black ink is coming off. Okay, just finding a different section of the paper towel, continuing my wiping. You're pretty much going to keep wiping until your paper towel comes clean, because you want to get that ink off and the oil. You don't want it to sit on the brayer and start getting into the roller's material and then ruining it. So I'm going to have to change paper towels here. I'm going to do my my final residue wipe. So for the most part, it's almost clean. Just flip it over, do it one more time. And then I do the sides. And then I get the one with the glass cleaner and I degrease it. And then I do the handle, and then we're set. Finish off with my tools. And then the glass. Again, with these rollers, you want to, forgot to degrease it, when you store them, you want to store them upside down so the roller's in the air. If you store them where they're resting on the glass like this, if they're there a long time, they'll actually create a flat spot and then it won't roll out ink very well. So when you store them like that, and then the roller isn't affected. Some studios I've seen it where they actually hang them. That's another method, but we won't have that in our studio classroom. And I'll just wipe the handle. Alright, so that's cleaning up the ink slab and the tools. And then when I clean the ink slab, you'll approach your inked plate in the same manner. I believe I cleaned it in one of my other videos. And some of the other demonstrations I'll be doing it again, so you'll be able to see that if you need some clarity on that particular situation. Alright, so I hope that you're able to get something from this. This gives you a little bit more insight on maintaining these tools so they continue to work best to their ability. And again, you know, if something gets out of sorts or that it's still inked, let me know and we'll take care of it. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.